Now, buddy, remove before flight is something that all Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 users have now gotten used to. The idea that you have to remove covers, the static port cover, for example, the Pitot cover, for example, or even just the engine cover as well. Yes, the new pre-flight that is obligatory if you start here on the ramp with an airplane. And some people might think, well, that's kind of rudimentary. I wish I could just turn off that feature and just spawn in with an airplane that's ready to fly. But I think it's important to learn to remove all those items, because in real life, this exactly has gone wrong many times. In 2018, an Airbus A330 by Malaysia Airlines, with the Pitot mast cover still being attached. Yes, these exact covers. Now, there are more than on a commercial airliner. The airplane had to end up doing an emergency landing, return to Brisbane, where the landing gear was very much damaged because the airplane was kind of overweight for landing. So great, congratulations. Just this cover right here did a lot of damage. Yes, what happens if we do fly, though, with some covers still in place? And that's something that I guess in general aviation happens a lot as well. So come on, let's turn on the aircraft right now. We've done no preparations whatsoever. Strobe light on, and let's try to start up the engine. Yes, and interestingly, it is starting up quite well. We've got some RPMs, but obviously this engine isn't able to pull any air. You may ask why. Well, of course, because the engine covers are still in place. Now, why do we do that? Obviously, the engine air intake is a nice place for birds or insects to nest a little bit, chill out, or for general debris. And now that we've removed the cover, though, we are able to start the engine nicely. Look at that. Yes, the engine is able to draw air. Everything is nice. Now, let's see if we can taxi, which will probably not happen. Of course, we have the chocks still in place. And that's something that's actually happened to me in the flight simulator. And maybe it happens quite a lot in real life. But it's very forgivable. That happens. But yes, chocks are able to really hold the airplane in place. So let's go ahead and remove the chocks now. Come on. Yeah, oh no, oh, it's crashing. Goodbye. This happens in real life a lot too. You should not have an airplane on full power and no braking and then jump out of it. Lots of fails like this happen all the time because, the pre-flight checks is quite a routine procedure and it seems not too important. Rush pre-flight leads to Cessna taking off with a tow bar attached. Generally, this happens so much. Can you imagine the loss of aura at the FBO for breaking the nose landing gear of some sort by still having that? How do you not realize that while taxiing too? Now, yes, while I do like this walk-around feature, I don't think it's complete. For example, in real life, something I always do, even before I put any covers on, I tie down the aircraft. This is extremely important to protect against winds. Yes, tie downs or propeller straps you can see right here, they of course need to be removed as well, which sometimes doesn't happen. There was a Saab 340 where a propeller strap was still attached to the propeller, and then they turned on the propeller, and of course the strap broke, and actually broke through the fuselage and actually injured a person. But come on, let's actually fly this airplane. And we'll figure out what happens now. Let's go ahead and open the door and turn her on and start taxiing in D. Now this airplane will fly, but with these covers still on, our instruments will be absolutely useless. Also, we have a PC-12 that's kind of like ghost taxiing without its engine being on, which is a bit weird. Okay, all is fine now. Let's go ahead and now taxi onto runway 10 right here. And let's go ahead and do this. Full power. All is good. Now, something you check on your aircraft, no matter how small or big, is how your airspeed moves. When you take off, you say something along the lines of
speed alive.
Airspeed alive. And that doesn't happen here. We have no speed alive. And actually, our plane's even warning us about that. We've got no airspeed indicator. And also, we don't have any indication of altitude. We're flying this airplane just on luck. And that's, again, exactly what happens in real life a lot. Now, we're in a Cessna. This is no problem. We can fly in visibility and just return back. Do a little bit of the pattern work. In fact, in pilot training, you kind of learn to fly without instruments a little bit. We even have our ground speed, but we can rely on a little bit on the GPS. All right, so let's go ahead and land. All right, we're way too fast. Doesn't really matter. All right, but here we go now. We've landed without any worries. So this is good. Now, there's definitely no difference at all between big or small aircraft. Here, we definitely also have the static port. and the cover of it. You can even just read static port. And we also have pitot tube. On actually both sides, we have 2 pitot tubes as a backup. Actually 3 pitot tube as a redundancy. Very important. Now about the difference between these 2 measurement devices. The static port measures the static pressure around the aircraft. So, you know, the surrounding ambient pressure, which is, for example, needed for the altimeter. It kind of measures your altitude. And the static port right here is quite solely for measuring airspeed. How quickly is air coming at us? So yeah, this is the airspeed indicator, but it does not work if the static ports are clogged. You know, this drawing kind of makes sense. The static port measures altitude, and for speed indication, we need the static port and the pitot tube. Anyway, let's go ahead and see what happens if we fly the 737 MAX with nothing removed again. Come on, let's try to turn her on quickly. Okay, looks good. We've got N2 compression. Yes, come on, engine starters are on. Doesn't quite work. Maybe it's because the cover is on. All right, let's jump outside the aircraft quickly and remove this. Come on. Yeah, like that. And now the engines can start spinning. I think in real life, these turbines would be able to just rip apart and suck in the cover. Now, these engines are nicely turning on and we're able to probably taxi and the airplane won't even realize what's going on. In fact, we will only sense that something is wrong when we start, well, going for a takeoff run. We've got no indication of airspeed here. We only have our ground speed right here, which kind of does help us to fly. Yes. Now, I'm pretty sure in modern airliners like this, we have a big problem because our airplane will be very much confused about our very low speed, but our ability to still fly. No idea how that would, for example, look like on an Airbus that has fly-by-wire, and probably will be very confused about this. I mean, try turning on autopilot. Yeah, okay. Autopilot will turn on. Okay, let's turn on heading mode. I mean, at least the heading mode seems to work. Okay, that works. Actually, the autopilot works just fine. We're actually climbing very nicely at our desired vertical speed, which means, okay, the Microsoft Flight Simulator is not all too realistic, because in real life, the autopilot would have no idea about our altitude or our speed. But there we go. Plane is flying nicely. Now, I would quite like to know what happens if you put this pitot cover off and just have the static port cover still on, which would still mean the instruments would be very much broken, right? It's not able to calculate proper airspeed because the static port cover is still on, and it shows. Look at that. That doesn't work either. Right now, I want to find out what happens if we remove this static port cover. But keep this pitot cover in place. All right, there we go. Full power indeed. Now, we don't expect the airspeed indicator to work, which doesn't work. No airspeed alive. But I do expect that the altimeter works, and it does work. Look, you can already see some minor movement there. Yes. I have no idea. Is the 737 MAX super underpowered in the flight sim? I have no idea. Why isn't it taking off? Come on. Yes, look at that now. And it works. We're climbing. Just the airspeed indication doesn't work. So everybody, yes, always make sure to keep pre-flight professional. I have no idea what in the MCAS this airplane is doing, but it's crashing. So that's great news. And so thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, good night. And a special thanks goes out to my members, my supporters, Guns Killer, R27, James Duram, That Dude, Anime Gods of Gaming, Derek, Insider Plane, Nishijitsu Finer, Professional Jamal, Ryland Williams, and New York. You've got beautiful names.